Early in the morning at a livestock area located along the edge of forest in Arizona, I arrived after receiving repeated reports about wild boars causing destruction. They were digging up the ground, damaging livestock areas, and continuously pushing deeper into the ranch. Creating increasingly serious damage within a short period of time. I specialize in handling and controlling invasive wild boar herds. And this time, the mission was no longer as simple as before. The signs they left behind showed that they were no longer moving alone, but appearing in large groups. So what if the entire herd entered a trap at the same time? Was there a way to control them all in a single operation? That was exactly why I had to use large steel cage traps. Starting today. The first trap was triggered during the night. When I returned the next morning, an entire herd of wild boars had already been captured inside, packed tightly together and reacting violently in a confined space. There was no time to wait, so we immediately moved in to begin the collection process. But just as everything seemed under control, an unexpected incident happened. Through a small gap in the fence, one wild boar suddenly escaped. It charged away at incredible speed, completely disrupting the original operation and forcing us to react immediately. But after that sudden situation, everything was quickly brought back under control. We tightened the process, handled every step more carefully to avoid further mistakes, and the escaped boar did not get very far before it was restrained. In the end, the entire herd was still loaded onto the transport cages on the truck, fully under control. A situation that seemed like it could spiral, but was handled in time. Another trap was also triggered during the night. Watching through the camera, I was genuinely shocked by the number of wild boars arriving. They walked into the trap one after another with almost no hesitation. By the time the gate slammed shut, the entire herd had been trapped inside, creating a scene far beyond expectations. Without waiting until morning, we immediately headed to the trap location during the night. Under the lights, the wild boars were still packed together and reacting violently inside. We quickly began collecting them, working in close coordination to load each one onto the truck and regain control before the situation became even more unpredictable. The third trap was placed in the middle of an open area inside the ranch, a location that did not seem ideal because it lacked cover. But the result turned out to be completely the opposite. When we checked it, an entire crowded herd of wild boars had already been trapped inside, packed tightly together, and moving chaotically through the large enclosure. Without hesitation, we immediately moved in, under the harsh sunlight across the open land. The wild boars reacted aggressively as soon as they saw people approaching. But this time, everything was already under control. We quickly began the collection process, coordinating closely to remove the entire herd decisively. The fourth trap was placed directly in a potato field, the area suffering the worst damage. When we checked it, dozens of wild boars had already been trapped inside after arriving overnight in the field. Without wasting time, we rushed in immediately. Facing the violent reactions of the herd, the entire team worked together quickly, handling every step decisively to collect them all. load them onto the truck, and completely regain control of the situation. The final trap was placed directly inside the cattle ranch area. When I checked it, I immediately realized the level of danger. The wild boars had moved much closer to the livestock area than I originally expected. But this time, I did not rush in to handle the situation right away. We stopped and observed, waiting for the herd inside to gradually calm down and reduce their fury. Once everything settled, the team slowly began each step, opening guidance paths and directing them to move in controlled directions instead of forcing. There was no more chaos like in the previous traps. Everything happened more slowly, but more precisely. And that was how we handled the entire herd of wild boars right beside the ranch area without creating any additional risks. Yep. When the final trap had been cleared, everything finally became quiet again. Looking back across the entire area, I knew we had controlled a larger number than ever before this time. From open ground and crop fields to the ranch itself, the wild boars had been stopped at every point. But more importantly, we had stayed one step ahead of them. And in this confrontation, being slow just once could have changed everything completely.
Taking advantage of the weekend, my family returned to Butler, a small town in Choctaw County, to visit my grandparents. It was meant to be a peaceful trip until we realized a looming danger was spreading through the neighborhood. Wild boars were appearing everywhere, invading home gardens, destroying property, and keeping residents in a constant state of alert. When wildlife pushes this close to residential areas, it's no longer an individual problem. It becomes a shared threat to the entire community. Action had to be taken, and it had to be taken early. This is not a recreational hunt. This is population control for the safety of the community. To minimize physical strain, ensure effectiveness against large groups, and avoid unnecessary injury, we chose trapping over traditional methods. Stay with us, because what happens next may not be what you expect. Installing the monitoring equipment. Before setting any traps, we installed a camera monitoring system to accurately assess the size of the herd and their movement patterns. Infrared cameras were securely mounted, recording day and night and activating automatically whenever motion was detected. In addition, cellular trail cameras allowed us to receive images in real time. This made it possible to identify the right moment to intervene and, crucially, avoid catching only a single animal. One of the most common mistakes in wild boar control, often leading to ineffective results and making the remaining herd even more wary. Setting up the boar trap. Based on the data collected, we proceeded to install a drop trap, a vertically falling trap widely regarded as one of the most effective methods for capturing an entire herd at the same time. The trap frame is built from heavy-duty steel panels and firmly anchored to ensure safety and stability when it drops. A remote activation system allows the trap to be triggered at the exact right moment, only when the cameras confirm that the entire herd is inside. This approach minimizes panic and prevents animals from escaping, which is critical in effective wild boar control. The bait used is typically corn or fermented grain, highly attractive to wild boar. Wild boar are intelligent and powerful animals, so I came up with a deliberate strategy, feeding them the same bait they love for several consecutive days. This creates a routine for the entire herd, lowers their guard, and builds familiarity with the trap site. Only after fully understanding their movement patterns, habits, and accurately identifying the timing of their appearance did we take action. After many nights of monitoring, the herd of wild boar kept returning to the same area, devouring the bait, tearing up the ground, then disappearing without a trace. Instead of rushing to set the trap, we chose patience. With wild boar, haste almost always leads to failure. We begin with pre-baiting, spreading bait and setting up monitoring cameras. The footage showed the herd arriving consistently, but there were always a few individuals hanging back, watching from the outside. That was a clear signal. It wasn't time to set the trap yet. Only when the entire herd moved in together, when their guard was fully down, were we ready for the next step. The boar buster trap was installed right at the familiar site, paired with a remote trigger to give us full control over the timing. When the camera feed confirmed that the whole herd was neatly inside, we didn't hesitate for a single second. The trap was activated. 2 successful control operations at the same location proved one thing clearly. When the process is done right, the results can be sustained over time. The neighborhood returned to peace, damage dropped significantly, and residents no longer had to live in fear night after night. This is not just a story about catching wild boar. It's about responsibility to the community, about safety, and about taking control of a situation rather than constantly chasing after the consequences. Transportation. After the operation concluded, wild boar were transported in specialized containment cages, ensuring safety and full compliance with state regulations. Every step of the process was carried out with care, minimizing risks to both people and the surrounding residential areas. All captured boar were removed from the trapping zone and handled in accordance with state and local government regulations. The immediate threat was eliminated. The area returned to a temporary state of calm, and the team's efforts resulted in outcomes that truly reflected the work put in.
Come on now. Come on now.
Wild boar control is not a matter of a single day or a one-time operation. It is a long-term process aimed at protecting communities, land, and public safety. The boar may return, but with the right approach, coordination, and disciplined decision-making, we can stay ahead of the situation rather than constantly reacting to its consequences. This is a shared responsibility, and it is how a community protects itself.
That night, the wild boars came right up to the edge of the residential area. Fresh tracks overlapped old ones. The grass was torn apart. The shared pathway churned into chaos. One look was enough to know we couldn't wait until tomorrow. We had to act early, the moment the threat began pressing against the neighborhood. But we didn't charge straight into the most chaotic spot. Instead, the team chose to block the gateway right along the route the herd was bound to pass through if they intended to move in. It was still close intervention, still timely. The only difference was position. We acted where the risk could be controlled, reducing damage without pushing the entire neighborhood into greater danger. Rather than confronting them head-on, the trap was set at a natural exit point. A movement corridor the herd had no choice but to cross if they continued forward. This was not where they caused disruption, but where they moved in the most familiar and predictable way. The traditional corral trap was designed as an open control ring. Its structure allowed the boars to approach naturally, without sudden pressure, without disrupting the herd's existing order. That key element made the control process safer and more effective. The value of the trap did not lie in how many animals were contained, but in where the herd was brought under control. When the trap was triggered, the process unfolded quietly. No loud noises, no disturbance to the sleeping neighborhood. The herd was held within a space large enough to maintain order, yet separated enough to fully isolate the risk. Instead of spreading outward, the danger was contained at a clearly defined control point. At that moment, the trap was no longer merely a tool for holding animals. It became a strategic checkpoint where the safety of the community was protected through calculated control.